Hey, so today I'm going to be making a pie. We got a gift box. My husband and I got a gift box from his parents, which was delightful. It had some dried fruit in it and some nuts, as well as a couple apples and a couple of gorgeous pears. And pears go so fast. You get them and then they're so ripe and ready. So I'm going to make a pie. Now, we only got 3 pears, and the recipe that I have calls for 5. So what I'm actually going to do is use both the pears and the apples, because we also got 2 apples in this gift box. So this is going to be a pear and apple pie. So first off, we need to start with the crust. So I've set out everything we're going to need. Do this before you start baking every time. This is mise en place, everything in its place. And it keeps you from scrambling around because, oh my God, I forgot to get this thing. I forgot the salt. I need to go grab it, but I'm on a time limit and I don't have enough time to... Don't do that to yourself. Get everything set out beforehand. It makes baking really nice and peaceful, and it cuts down on the amount of stress. Baking shouldn't be stressful. It should be relaxing. So we've got 4 cups of flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a cup, also known as a stick. If you get it in sticks, usually that's a stick, is also a cup. Vegetable shortening, although you could use lard. I just had sticks of shortening handy, so I'll go for that. A beaten egg, 5 tablespoons cold water, and a tablespoon of vinegar. So what we're going to do is mix our salt into our flour. Ta-da! Very advanced first step. And then you're going to cut your lard, or your vegetable shortening in this case, into that flour mixture. And you might be going, mixture? Why are you calling it flour mixture? Just add a little salt. Anytime you add something, so it's not just a single ingredient, then it becomes a mixture. Usually it is a mixture of whatever your largest ingredient is. So this is flour, which is a little bit of salt, so it's a flour mixture. But I have a fun toy for this. And if you don't have one for cutting things in and you do this a lot, I recommend getting one. Just a nice little cutter. You can do it with a pair of knives if you want to. You would just kind of go crosswise this way, cutting back and forth with a knife. You can do it by hand. If you do it by hand, I would recommend cutting your stick of lard or shortening into little chunks first, and then working it in so it's kind of grainy that way. I just like this little guy because it's easy. Yeah, because he just slices through, and it makes it go really fast. So you're just going to do this until the lard resembles small peas. Good luck with that. Small peas is what we're aiming for here. So you're just going to keep cutting this in. Next, we're going to deal with the wet ingredients. So I've got the water in here. I use nice cold tap water because right now the tap water coming out of my tap is about the same as ice water. If you don't have that, then use ice water. You want your water to be cold. If you don't have access to ice water, it's really easy. Get out of your tap, measure it out, and stick this bowl in your freezer while you're getting your dry ingredients. And then pull this out, it'll be nice and chilled. And that's all you need. Just want it to be cold because working with your dough is easier when it's cold. It's not as big a problem with this recipe as it would be if, say, there was butter in here rather than the shortening. Because butter you need to keep cold if you have recipes with that. But even with this, it's easier to work with it if you have your ingredients chilled for you. So I've got my cold water. Going to add in my tablespoon of vinegar. And then I'm going to add 1 egg I already beat up. and pour that in. And it just looks so cool. That's the vinegar that you see it reacting with in there. It's making it behave fun. There are a lot of fun science experiments that you can do with adding vinegar into things. It makes some gorgeous stuff. But we're going to go ahead and mix this up until it's all worked in. And then we're just going to pour that. I made a well in the center of my flour mixture here. And we're just going to pour that in. And I'm going to start off using my spoon. Odds are I'm going to have to switch to my hand eventually. And we're just going to get this mixed up so it's a nice dough. I just like to start with a spoon when it's still really, really wet. And then you can just get your hands in there and get it worked into a good dough. So get the wet off the spoon. And this is a fairly forgiving dough because it has vinegar in there, but you still don't want to work it too much. You're just getting all of the flour wet and getting this to bind together. So after you get to that point, you don't want to like knead it or anything like that. You just want to get everything to bind together. And I like just kind of squeezing it to try to get all this worked in. Kind of squeeze it, fold it over. If it doesn't come together, you can add more water, but don't do it too soon. Don't give up on this too soon. You don't want your pie crust to be too wet. You'll say, oh, this is too dry, I need more. Don't do it yet. Keep working. Odds are it will come together for you, and you won't need a ton more water. Because you don't want it to be a wet, sticky dough. But I do think I am going to need more water, so I'm going to go and grab that and then finish working this together. Okay, I worked my dough. It's basically come together. You can see it's still not exactly come together. That's normal. Don't panic. Don't say, oh, I need to add more water. I need this to be wetter. That's going to happen, just not right now. So what you want to do now, and I prefer to kind of pre-shape at the same time as I do this. You're going to get it in some plastic wrap or wax paper or something that will protect it from drying out while it's in the fridge. And I put it down, and I like to just kind of pre-shape by flattening it down. That'll also help it chill down faster. The more surface area you give it, the less of a core that it has in there to stay warm. It'll chill faster. So we're just going to wrap this up and then chill it while we prepare our pie fillings. So here are my pears and my apples. Aren't they beautiful? And because these are going to have such different textures, I'm actually going to leave the peels on these pears is really, really thin. Odds are you won't even notice it. For the apples, though, I am going to peel them. And whereas the pears, I'm going to dice. The apples, because they are much firmer, I'm going to do a thinner slice so that they'll break down easier and won't be quite so jarring texturally in a pie. I do have this wonderful little gizmo from harvest seasons gone by. When we have an apple tree, our neighbors have apple trees, there are apple and pear trees all over the neighborhood, and everyone's trying to give away once, all of their leftovers once, harvest time starts. So we've made cider, I've made pies, I've made cobblers, all kinds of things. And so I splurged and gave myself a little helper to do the peeling and coring for me. And this little guy also does slicing, which I love, because then I don't have to worry about any of it. I just stick it in, process it, done, haha. So I'm going to go ahead and just cube up these pears, take the cores out, but I'm leaving the skins on, and then I'm going to peel and slice our apples and get them all prepped to go into our pie. Okay, our pie crust has had time to rest and chill, time to roll it out. So I like to use my mat. You can just flour your surface and roll it out. I have a mat that I have basically inherited that has all the sizes for your pie crust and you know how big you want that to be to do, and it's a cheat sheet. Underneath, I put down a damp paper towel. You can use a fabric towel, it just raises it up that little bit. So I don't like it if it's going to be where it'll cause a bump in what I'm rolling. But just put something down to help it, not, not slide so much. So let's unwrap our pie crust. And first, before we do anything, we're going to flour our space. And don't be afraid of this. You're not going to ruin it by adding too much flour. It's fine. It just helps it not stick. And then put that, if you have one of these, it's great. Put it about in the middle, close as you can. And I should have pulled out my rolling pin before. Okay. And we're going to roll this out. This calls for a 9-inch pie shell. And this is actually marked. There it is, 9-inch. So we're aiming for about here. And you want to try to keep it round, which is why I chilled it in the round to give myself kind of a head start in having this be round. We're just going to roll this out. So I'm going to roll this out until it's into our 9-inch size, and then okay, working on rolling out our pie crust. Sorry about that little blip. I needed to check my recipe. I've never made this recipe before, so it'll be a first. And I was a little confused because most fruit pies, you want 2 pie crusts, a top and a bottom. And so I had to double check. This recipe does not call for that. So we will see, because it doesn't have you top it with another crust. So we're just going to roll this out. And I always go bigger than the 9 inches it calls for. You want that extra room because obviously you're not getting it perfectly round. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Definitely not for me. So just get it rolled out so it is past your 9 inches comfortably. And then that is going to go into your pie pan and just wait. And there should be enough grease, in this case the shortening, if you use lard that would do it too, that you don't need to pre-grease your pie shell or your pie pan, because the crust is basically going to be self-greasing. So there we've got that rolled out. Now, the way I like to try to move this into this without tearing it up every which way, and you see this a lot on baking shows, probably where I got it, might have been taught. I don't even remember. I don't remember another way to do it. just gently lift one end of your crust and roll it. You're not pressing down, you're just rolling really loose to be able to pick that up. Bring this over, and then you're going to get it past the edge of your pie tin and then roll it back out. And you see it already starting to relax down into that pie tin. And you just encourage it. You don't want to push down with your fingers in the middle because you don't want to poke holes in it. Just lift from the outsides and kind of encourage that to tuck down in. And once it's down there, not with your fingertip, you'll stab it, maybe with a knuckle. You can make sure that it is all the way into your corners because you want it to be all the way fitted into your tin. Otherwise, it won't have as good of a bake. And then just make sure that's fit all the way around the top of your pie. And actually, this rolled out just about the right size. So there's not much trimming required at the moment, which is awesome. Hooray! So there's my pie crust ready to go. I'm going to tuck this back into the fridge, let it chill again and kind of relax after it had that, workout of being rolled out. And then I'm going to make the filling. All right, we've made our pie crust, got it all rolled out, and it's chilling in the fridge. I set the oven to warm up to 400 degrees, so it's going to be preheated for us. Now it's time to mix up our fillings and fill our pie, get it started. So, for fillings, we have a 1/4 cup of flour, 3/4 cups of sugar, 1 cup of cream, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and then 1 tablespoon of sugar over here, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon's powerful stuff. Don't use too much. But when measuring things out, I generally say measure with your heart, which for me means that my vanilla I measure out until it overflows. My cinnamon might be a heaping 1/4 teaspoon rather than, measured off flat. I add a little bit extra flavor to things sometimes if I like the flavor. So, we're going to start off by sifting together our flour and our sugar. And this won't take long because there's not much of it. Most of it's going to fall through anyway. But, put your flour, your sugar, before all the sugar cranks through, go ahead and try to sift some of that together. And it just fall through. Done. To this, we're going to stir in the cream and the lemon juice. So there's our lemon juice. Whoop. And our cream. I'm actually going to go get a spatula because I would hate to waste that much extra cream. Okay, so let's scrape out the rest of this cream that's in here. It's a whole lot coming out to just be stuck on the sides of a measuring cup. There we go, get that cream in there. And then we're going to mix all that up until it's smooth. And I'm just going to use the spatula that I brought over. A whisk would probably go faster, but whatever works, works. And as you're watching this, you'll notice, like on cooking shows a lot of the time, they're like, okay, it's done, and move on to the next step. No, it's not. It's not done. That's why they always pull out one that actually looks good, that's not the one that they just made. On cooking shows where they're giving you instructions and things, usually they don't actually take the time that whatever they're making needs to be done. Because cooking takes time. If you think, well, they made it in an hour, so can I. I mean, yes, on some of the big competition shows, that's what it takes. But home cooking, generally, it's going to take more time than the show makes you think it does. That's why they have a second dish that they've already made beforehand that they bring out to actually have people taste it and try it. Because they don't take the time that you'd actually have to take, because they don't have that time. In a 1 hour show, you only have so much time. So this is smooth. Now we're going to put in our apple and pear mixture. And you just kind of try to fold that in. It's going to get nice and gooey and chunky. But you want to get your fruit evenly coated in that cream mixture. And it sounds kind of gross. Which is fun. That's why if you have kids, let them do that part. They'll enjoy it. Make it all scooshy. Make funny sounds. For that matter, all of this is great to have your kids help with. There's really nothing that they would mess up. You know, cut things irregularly, great, fine. Leave some of the peel on, okay. There's not much in this pie that will make a difference if you mess it up. So if you measure everything out for your kids and then just let them just dump things in and mix it all up, it'll be great. They hopefully they'll have fun. They'll be able to learn about baking, and there's not a lot that can get hurt by having a inexperienced hand work on this. So I'm gonna go grab our pie shell and we'll fill this. All right, our pie crust is chilled. The recipe does not say to pre-bake this or to blind bake it, so we're just gonna leave it as is, except that now that it's had time to relax, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off the excess edges around the pie. I didn't want to do this before because it was still relaxing. And I just didn't want to get it too small. Just go ahead and just trim those off right around the edge of your dish. Just gives it a more, even look. So we'll pour our fruit and cream mix straight in there. Make sure you get all the liquid out, because that's going to be your binder to keep everything together inside this shell. And then just level that out as best you can. And then we've got the cinnamon sugar. I'm going to go ahead and mix those here. So the recipe says just after you poured that in, doesn't say to top it with anything, but then just sprinkle the top with this cinnamon sugar mixture. And odds are that's also going to make it look gorgeous. And you want to get it as evenly coated as you can. Don't forget the edges. little heavy there. That's okay. Just shake the rest of that out there. So this is going to go in the oven for 45 to 50 minutes in 400-degree oven. And it's just gonna bake. No cover, no anything like that. Although, if as it gets closer, you notice the edges of your pie starting to brown too much to burn, you can go ahead and put like tinfoil around the edges of that to cover up your crust, just so that it stays nice and pretty. So let's get this in the oven. All right, the pear and apple pie is out. It's cooled. It was so hard to let this cool all the way, but it looks like this is a cream pie, which means you have to let it cool all the way. If you try to cut it while it's still warm, it's just gonna go bleh, everywhere. Just get gloop. So you have to let this kind of pie, I'm guessing that's what this kind of pie is. Like I said, haven't made this before. Cool and rest until it is completely ready to be cut. So hopefully that's where we are. We're gonna go ahead and cut it. And here it is. I'll get out of my shadow. And it is beautiful and it smells amazing. I'm sorry this isn't smell-o-vision because this smells great. Try to cut through. This is a little interesting. It's a cream pie with solid bits, which means you end up trying to kind of not drag through the cream too much while still, getting the solid bits but not having them mess everything up. I don't think this is going to work. I think I should be serving these in bowls. I bet it's still going to taste awesome. That feels like it's cut through, except for right there. Maybe should have let this rest overnight, but you know what? I'm not that patient. So we're gonna go ahead, get this lifted out, and let's see if it just goops everywhere. There we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. Gorgeous that way. Holding its shape fairly well. That is going to be a tasty pie, I hope. Let's go ahead and take our bite. And yes, I only have my knife, so I'm going to use it. So there we go. Take our taste of this. Yeah, no, this is a good recipe. It's not too sweet. It's got a really nice cream. Looking at this, the pear is almost kind of melted in with the cream. I like that I have the apple in here too, to give it a little bit of a crunch, makes it a little toothsome, which is nice. In contrast with the creamy, and like I said, the cream is kind of melted in with, or the pear is melted in with the cream. So this, I think, is worth making again. It's a good pie. I'm sure if you actually chilled it, which I didn't, I just left it on the counter, it would hold its shape better. And this is a pie that just, because it's got cream in it, you have to keep it refrigerated, but just keep it chilled down. And then this would be a good one to take to an event, gathering, picnic, whatever. And it would be a nice light pie that you could have, after your meal. It doesn't feel like it should be too heavy. This is going to be a good pie. I'm going to hold on to this recipe. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.